Good morning. My name is Wally Kelly, and I'm the Health Center Chaplain here at the Moorings. I invite you to Chaplain's Corner this Thursday morning, March 24th, 2022. Been spending some time in the Gospel of John the past few days, and I want to share with you a passage from John, chapter 9, verses 1 through 4. As Jesus walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. If you read the rest of the ninth chapter, you will learn that this man was healed of his blindness. Not only his physical blindness, but his spiritual blindness. And it was a great miracle that this blind man was healed. But it was an even greater miracle that he was given the gift of faith. And that's something that we lose sight of sometimes, that faith is a gift from God. It's not something you can muster on your own from a well of internal strength. And the gift is available to anyone, but it has to be accepted. It's an interesting metaphor that Jesus uses. I am the light of the world. Norman Neves, a pastor from Oklahoma, once said, "A miracle is any event that opens up the future for someone whose life was previously blocked out and shut down and hemmed in." That's what Jesus did. He brought light to all the dark places of this world and promised hope and a future to all who would follow him. Norman Neves' description of a miracle as any event that opens up the future for someone whose life was previously blocked out and shut down and hemmed in reminds me of the story of Helen Keller. Now, as we know, Helen was not cured of her blindness. Nevertheless, all the time that her teacher, Anne Sullivan, invested in helping her overcome her blindness, the handicaps associated with her blindness, brought a miraculous transformation to Helen's life. The story goes that one morning, Helen and Anne walked down to the well house, attracted by the fragrance of the honeysuckle. And Anne put Helen's hand under the water spout and spelled water in a language that she had developed on one of Helen's hands, while the water gushed over the other. For the first time, Helen began to perceive the mystery of language. It was a slow process. It certainly didn't happen overnight. But gradually, through the patience and love and determination of Anne Sullivan, Helen Keller grew into a person of strength, confidence, and worldwide inspiration to so many people. It's no wonder then that when the play and movie were made about her life, they featured not only Helen, but her dedicated teacher. Through her patience and care and insight, she was able to bring Helen from the dark confines of solitary confinement into a world of relationships and spontaneity. You may know that she and Mark Twain were very close friends. And in fact, he was so taken with her that he once said, "She is fellow to Caesar, Alexander, Napoleon, Homer, Shakespeare, and all the rest of the immortals of history. She will be as famous 1,000 years from now as she is today." Shortly after their first meeting, Twain formed a circle to fund her education at Radcliffe College, which led to her publishing an autobiography at the age of 22, which in turn led her to become almost as celebrated as Twain himself. The two had been friends since this blind, deaf-mute child was 14 years old. She remembered their meeting quite well. The instant I clasped his hand in mine, I knew that he was my friend. They visited each other frequently, and on the occasion of his death, she penned these words. He knew with keen and sure intuition many things about me and how it felt to be blind and not to keep up with the swift ones, things that others learn slowly or not at all. He never embarrassed me by saying how terrible it is not to see or how dull life must be, lived always in the dark. He wove about my dark walls romance and adventure, which made me feel happy and important. Once when Peter Dunn exclaimed, "God, how dull it must be for her, every day the same and every night the same as the day," Twain said, "You're wrong there. Blindness is an exciting business, I tell you. If you don't believe it, get up some dark night on the wrong side of the bed when your house is on fire and try to find the door." Mr. Clemens thought he was a cynic, but his cynicism did not make him indifferent to the sight of cruelty, unkindness, meanness, or pretentiousness. He would often say, "Helen, the world is full of unseeing eyes, vacant, staring, soulless eyes." He would work himself into a frenzy over dull acquiescence to any evil that could be remedied. True, sometimes it seemed as if he let loose all the artillery of heaven against an intruding mouse, but even his resplendent vocabulary was a delight. To be hampered and circumscribed as I am it was a wonderful experience to have a friend like Mr. Clemens. I recall many talks with him about human affairs. He never made me feel that my opinions were worthless, as so many people do. He knew that we do not think with eyes and ears, and that our capacity for thought is not measured by 5 senses. He kept me always in mind while he talked and treated me like a competent human being. That's why I loved him. Perhaps my strongest impression of him was that of sorrow. There was about him the air of one who had suffered greatly. Whenever I touched his face, his expression was sad, even when he was telling a funny story. He smiled, not with the mouth, but with his mind, a gesture of the soul rather than of the face. His voice was truly wonderful. To my touch, it was deep, resonant. He held the power of modulating it so as to suggest the most delicate shades of meaning, and he spoke so deliberately that I could get almost every word with my fingers on his lips. Ah, how sweet and poignant the memory of his soft, slow speech playing over my listening fingers. His words seemed to take strange, lovable shapes on my hands. Isn't that wonderful to have someone like Helen Keller say these things about you? I wonder how Twain would have felt had he been like his own Tom Sawyer and read these words of his friends at his own funeral. They do describe, after all, a person who sounds a lot like Jesus, and maybe that would have surprised Mark Twain most of all. And is there a higher compliment? Helping the blind to see is our calling. And you don't have to be a miracle worker to do that. Have you ever had an experience of seeing for the first time? One of those moments when you were suddenly aware of something that had been in front of you all the time. The light of Christ guides us on our path, showing us how to live and relate to other people with kindness and compassion. Thank God for the light of Christ, for the miracle of seeing the world and our place in it in new ways. I'm going to share with you a prayer posted on the website of Grace Church in London, England. Lord, in our own lives, we are seeking light. In our neighborhoods, we are seeking light. In our families, we are seeking light. In our work, we are seeking light. In grace, we are seeking light. In our nation and in our world, we are seeking light. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door will be opened. Ask, and it will be given to you. Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world. May we have eyes to see you and ears to hear you. Come into our world today. Amen. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.